Okay, so
Oh, we're back. Okay.
Yeah.
so what are we doing right now?
Do we not have Austin?
All right, yeah. So yeah, what happened to Austin?
They didn't tell me a thing, but
Oh, it's us and him. We're doing an interview with him.
Okay, come on. All right, let's accept you on the video. Well, nice. All right.
Kyle, tell us about yourself, man.
well, my name's Kyle. You guys know me. Wow, I got a really delayed echo there.
If you're watching Twitch, remember to mute that.
Yeah, you want to probably mute Twitch since if you're just on the YouTube.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I had it muted already.
Very good video on.
Anyways, my name's Kyle. You guys know me on the chat role as Private Dancer. It's my nice, funny name there.
Oh, I do know you as Private Dancer, yes.
We do know Private Dancer.
So where are you calling in from, Cal?
I'm calling in from Oregon.
Oregon?
Yep,
Well, thank you for backing very much.
Well, thank you for making the game. I'm really excited to be able to play it.
Awesome.
Me and my friends all are.
It's good. So you, how late are you holding with it? I guess it's not so. You're on our time, which is West Coast time. So.
I'm on your time. I'm gonna try to make it pretty late. I think. I had some plans this weekend, but you know, who needs sleep?
Exactly. And we got a whole fridge full of various energy drinks. So,
There you go.
Good, and plenty of sugar. Which we got this rather nice looking red velvet cake behind us. At some point, we'll probably knock into.
Yeah, you guys are gonna be able to make it. I believe in you.
There you go. So when did you hear about Star? Just out of curiosity, like when did you hear about it? When did you back? That kind of.
I heard about it late October, early November is about when I heard about it, and then I pledged mid-November, right around the time of the campaign, and
Okay.
I was really beating myself up for that.
So you did it like at the end of the campaign then, or around like the very end, or just because I think we finished on the 18th, but then we had a grace period of like a week afterwards.
I believe I pledged on the 16th or 17th, so it was during the actual pledge.
Okay, yeah, right during the like crazy last few days.
Yeah, right at the end there.
I remember going, hey, what number should we set the Bengal carrier can be playable at? Because no one's ever going to get there. I don't know, 5.5, we're never getting to 5.5. And then we're like, holy shit, we got to 5. And like this. And then we're like, well, what happens at 6? I don't know. And that was a pretty awesome time at the end of that, because it's sort of that last weekend went nuts. I think we were actually hoping we could get to 4. It looked like maybe we'd get to 4, but we had no idea we'd end up in like 6.2. But I think everyone just went completely crazy on the last weekend. So, which is kind of doing this live stream because it's sort of in celebration of the last 24-hour live stream we did back in November, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching it just from the perspective of a gamer. That was just ridiculous to just see everybody getting in there and wanting to pledge to see something like this. It was amazing.
Very awesome. So hey, what like in the game? What are you looking forward to doing the most? Or do you like what kind of role? Or what are you most interested in?
Well, me and my friends, we've been talking about it, and we've been really interested in doing kind of a smuggling bounty hunter, kind of right on the edge of the law kind of role, trying to stay kind of on the good side, but still doing what we have to do to make money. And I think that'd be fun. Maybe a little bit of bounty hunting here and there, because got a bunch of ships for that too now.
Oh, so what ships do you have?
I have the Constellation, the 325A now, and an Aurora, and I'm planning on possibly getting an M50.
All right.
And then maybe more, because I just keep saying it.
You'll be happy in the Constellation. I mean, I think we showed the Ryan Church's original design a while ago, but we now have it in engine, and it's pretty awesome. It's got like all the little bits move, and it's going to be fun to be flying that in the game. So I think
That'll be great.
You'll be quite happy with that, because it'll be like there'll be that Millennium Falcon dream where you can get up while you're in flight or in combat, go around to get in the turret or jump in the little recon fighter and all the rest of stuff. So it'll be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Me and my friends are really excited about getting it fully manned together and then getting out there and facing pirates and doing our own thing. So
Yeah,
we're planning on a lot of fun.
that's the part of the gameplay I'm most looking forward to because that's really sort of the newest of it. So I mean, you know, obviously the single player stuff's going to be great, and we're doing a whole bunch of extra stuff to make that more nuanced and have a lot of different sort of tweaks and features that you can do in terms of getting into it and different sort of rock versus paper setups of how you set up your ship. But yeah, I mean, just the sort of combine, like having a small crew work together to fly one ship efficiently, I think is something I'm actually kind of looking forward to because it's sort of it's like it's a play style that I haven't really seen because, you know, even I like Battlefield, right? So I played, not recently because I haven't had a chance, but I have a lot of Battlefield Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3. And I always like, you know, you work with a few of your friends, you play together. So like me and Eric Peterson used to play Battlefield Bad Company 2 together. You know, you jump into a tank and someone will be running the gun and everything. And it's kind of cool, but it's like, it's still sort of, you're third person, you're outside it. You don't really feel like you're inside running it the same way as I think you'll feel inside, like, say, the Constellation, where you'll actually feel like, you know, immersed in it.
The impacts of the rounds hitting your ship, and hopefully I'm assuming you could see some damage inside your cockpit as your ship starts breaking down if you're really punished.
You know, that was in Wing Commander 1, so we're definitely doing it here. So I want, you know, like you see that, you actually see, that was the whole idea with Wing Commander was like, you know, whatever we called it, what you see is what you get or something. But that's kind of the, but it was essentially, the idea was like, instead of like going, okay, you got 62% hull integrity or damage, it was like you actually saw, you know, displays sparking and, you know, VDUs were cracked and stuff like that as you got more damage, and we're definitely doing that in you know, in Star Citizen. So we're doing a fair amount of damage modeling, and all the different parts can get damaged, so they don't function as well or get completely destroyed, and we'll see that inside. And there should be a certain amount of sort of fixing up and repair that you can do even before you get to the planet. So you can't fully fix it up, but maybe you can patch it up enough to get back and get a proper repair or something like that.
Or if not, call one of the towing services I've heard about.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that, you know, that was sort of like, it was a suggestion of someone like, well, there's no reason why that couldn't work because we have all the tools for it. So yeah, you know, he's the one who has a tractor server, tractor beam, or, you know, perhaps they also have, like, you know, they go out and they've got a tanker or something and they can, like, you know, fill you up if you run out of gas.
There you go.
Sort of AAA style.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. One of the questions I did have was on the Vanduul, as you kind of spread out along the outer rims of the less lawful portions of space, will you ideally run into random groups of them just out in the middle of nowhere to be able to have a chance to capture their ships or salvage their technology?
Well, no, you'll definitely, as you get more into the Vandal space, you'll see and meet more of them, and there'll be some tough battling. I mean, I'm not so sure. I mean, capturing is going to be a fair amount of a challenge.
I'm assuming with a fighter that would be.
Yeah. But there will definitely be opportunities in the game itself to potentially find some bits or get some upgrades, or, you know, maybe capture a different kind of Vandal ship that, you know, no one's had yet.
Are there going to be any options for just disabling a ship, like a round or a way if you disable the shields with normal rounds and then be able to disable it kind of like someone would with a taser if they were just wanting to put them down briefly but not kill them? Same thing with a ship.
Dave, didn't we have, what's that Joker? Wasn't there one that we did that, like, drained? I can't remember. It was like we came
An innovator or something like that and drained their power plant or something.
There was some, yeah.
An EMP type thing.
Yeah.
There was basically something that, like, would prevent someone from running away. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes. The answer would be yes.
That sounds wonderful. It'd be a lot easier to capture a smaller fighter that way instead of just destroying it and calling it quits for the night.
Yeah, I think now you can search on the new website.
Actually, I have the Word doc open.
That's the advantage of having the writer sitting right here at the table.
Yeah.
That always helps.
Yeah, the innovator.
Boom, Idris is sold out.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long was that?
6 minutes?
No way. When did it go on? You got to be kidding me.
10:30.
That's 10:30.
No way. That's insane.
Wow. I could text my friend to see if he picked one up.
What time is it?
36.
36.
Yep.
Got one just before driving here.
Apparently, the UAE was selling them cheaply.
14.6.
Yeah.
That was the last batch, right?
That was it. It was done. That's crazy. Okay.
The last.
All right.
Also, so in an ideal situation, do you have any idea of how many ships you'd like to have?
He gets all excited. 4 minutes of going to Eric. He gets all excited. He's like, oh, yeah. Like, Eric, we can't. Come on. We've got to keep balance. Let's not. 9 minutes. Fuck are you?
Sorry, what was that? We all got excited first.
No, that's good. That's an exciting time right there. That's amazing. But I was just wondering, ideally, in your ideal scenario for Star Citizen, how many ships, whether they be NPC controlled or players in the best case scenario, could you fit in a single area, I guess? I mean, I know instances and everything take things in a different direction, but if I could see them on my screen.
Well, I mean, I guess that's part of the reason why we're doing the dogfighting. You'll be able to see more characters down on the planet side than you will in space, more discrete players. And then in space, it's also kind of slightly dynamic because people aboard a ship count slightly differently than like different space vehicles. So it's kind of hard to say because that's why we're doing the dogfighting. Alpha is to basically balance to see how many ships we can like have in one area and have it still be fun and not be problematic because there's a higher amount of fidelity of the updates. So it's hard to say. I mean, I won't be able to give you a proper answer until probably the end of this year.
Yeah.
But hopefully shooting for at least as many as Battlefield has.
That would be wonderful. Battlefield's a lot of fun when you get all your friends in there and you get to play as a team or against each other.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'm
wonderful
actually hoping that on the multiplayer ships, we can actually fit some more people in because the simulation of multiplayer ships, because everyone's discrete, like in terms of like your big issues of like updating on a server to a client. I'm sorry if it's going to get technical with people, but the big issues are always about communicating data to all the clients. Now, if I'm a ship and someone else is in it, there's 10 people on an Idris. From my perspective as a ship, I don't care what the 10 people are doing inside the Idris because I'm not inside it. I only care what the actual Idris is doing and what the turrets are doing on it. So I actually don't need to know anything about the people running around on the ship on the Idris. Whereas if you're in the Idris, you do know about the people running around the ship, but vice versa, you don't need to know about the other people on the ship. So actually, the amount of updating that happens there is actually the setup of like space and how like Star Citizen is actually better for that kind of stuff than, for instance, say Battlefield, where you're all sort of on the ground in first person. So I'm hoping that like you can fit more players, an instance when you've got a multi-crew ship doesn't count as much against the player cap, if that makes any sense. So we'll have
That makes perfect sense. I work in IT, so all that's great. I have a lot of questions about the server that I'm sure you couldn't answer yet anyways.
And we're still in that, and also Jason Spangler, who's our CTO, he's basically the prime architect of the back-end stuff. I mean, his background was, he was one of the senior programmers on Ultima Online, right, when they first built it, and at the end ended up being the technical director of Origin and all the UO stuff, and then went and did it for the Dark Age of Camelot guys, and then was on the Old Republic at BioWare in Austin. So he's got a huge amount of big sort of MMO experience, and we've talked through. There's a system that I sort of fleshed out in a big picture design while I was doing the prototype, and that's essentially the system we're implementing. But there's a lot of details that go into the big picture implementation that he's an expert on. I'm not really an expert on. All the kind of stuff that I'm more focused on, like, does it look cool and does it blow up? That's how you deal with redundancy in data packets.
Well, it's much more fun to picture the blowing up than the redundancy portion. For multiplayer ships, if you have a gunner that, say, gets injured or even dies on your ship, is there any way you could have like a person who maybe is trained or just has medical supplies to either revive or heal that person, or are they just going to die in the same sense that we've already heard in Death of a Spaceman, where they're just going to come back on their planet? Or do you have any idea how that's going to work that way?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think, what you're really talking about is like if you're in close, like, on shipboarding actions and someone gets hit, and can you help them out or patch them up or drag them out? So I mean, I think there'll be a certain amount of that. I mean, you already have we're running in CryEngine, and right now we basically got everything Crysis 3's got. So all that first-person stuff's already sitting in our code base, all the weapons, all the attachments. So that side of stuff is actually pretty easy to implement. So the big questions are, what extra stuff are we going to do for, say, zero-G stuff? What are we going to do if there's like a decompression? And then if you want to add extra stuff like, fixing someone up with a medipack or pulling them out or whatever. So I will say that the combat's probably going to be sort of more tactical, and it's not going to be like a straight ahead, just blast a whole bunch of people, because essentially if you're boarding a ship, it's not like you're going in and you're going to blast 50 or 60 people. It's going to be like maybe
running down a narrow corridor and getting lit up by a ton of people at the other end.
It's going to be like three against three or 4 against 4 or something. So that's tactical. So I think it would be more along the lines of something like a DayZ, where it's more it's more realistic in terms of you can't just take a million bullets and still sit around the corner and let the red fade away from your screen and then you're back to normal.
We're not doing slow-mo breaching sequences?
Are players going to be able to special? I know there's not a leveling system or any kind of an RPG aspect, but if a player has a way to repair their ship on the outside, or whether that's from the inside, is that all just going to be skill based on the player, like a timing mechanic, press spacebar now, hit R now, and then that'll do the repair? Or is it going to be some other kind of fashion where you have a toolbox and you sit there and you hold a button and it just does the repair for you?
That's a good question. We are going to do EVA stuff, and you are going to be able to repair stuff. I'm not necessarily sure that we're going to have any particular level, like all of a sudden I'm now a level 3 repairer dude, because that's against the principle of this. It's not. I don't really want any sort of leveling of the characters. It's more about what you do and how you equip the stuff. So I think the repairs are going to be mostly about, do you have the right equipment? If you actually did the ship and you're repairing it, it will take some time to repair or fix it. And of course, if you're fixing your ship and someone else shows up when you're outside your ship, it's probably not great. Kind of the idea is that, maybe you take some damage and you need to go outside and just patch a few things so you can limp home and then get it fixed properly when you land on the planet.
That sounds like a good thing to do. On players, do you have any idea how long they're going to last? Because one thing you were mentioning, DayZ, if we run onto their website right now, they'll have an average player life of, I think it's around 20 minutes right now or less, and they're dead.
And with us, it's not. I mean, that's the whole that death of a spaceman idea is the idea is you actually, you basically essentially die multiple times. It's like lives, and then after you've expended all those, that's when you really die. So it's sort of you're close to death and you get revived or whatever. So it's not going to be like DayZ where bam, it's done and you got to start a new character, because not only do you pass along your possessions to your next of kin, but you have multiple times where you basically can come back. And the other thing is, if you're in a fight and you lose the fight and you eject and you're in space, as long as someone doesn't shoot you, which is a pretty bad crime, basically shoot you floating hopelessly in space, you haven't lost a life. So you basically will just get recovered and you'll start back on your planet. So that doesn't really count against it. So I'm thinking that as long as you're not terrible and as long as people you're in an area of space where there's no lore and people just basically kill every pilot that ejects because they like to do that, your character should last you quite a long time. I mean, there may be people that keep the same character for a couple of years if they don't get into too much combat or manage to eject and not get killed. So I kind of want some attachment you have to your character and it lasts some time, and then when you finally bite the bucket and you go to the funeral, it has some emotional impact on you.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Get you really invested in it. It's always good.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the idea of the immersion. The idea is sort of there is a sense of progression in time. So that's the whole idea of the constant updating of the universe, because if we weren't constantly updating it, you wouldn't get a sense of time moving on. Like if you did a big yearly drop or something like sometimes some of the other big MMOs do, you wouldn't, everything would just feel in stasis, and then you update it once and then maybe things have just changed. Whereas with us, our idea is the same way on the website that we have all these posts every week. The idea is we'll be updating content on a hopefully a weekly basis. If not, it would be at least a bi-monthly basis. And it doesn't mean that we're doing massive updates every time, but we're 1 week we could be adding a new system, another week we're adding a new ship, another week we could be adding a new mission series that would be sort of like a scripted mission series that perhaps you can get some a cool item for. And we're also constantly updating like the internal sort of news or stories, and we'll be fashioning some of our content and missions around what we see happening in the world, what the players are doing, and we'll also be reflecting it in like the gossip or the news articles and stuff. So the idea is that if things are happening, you start to, their actions in some way inform and affect the actual, games and what the NPCs are doing too.
That's good. One of the questions I had, or my friend had about one of the ships, he was trying to think of good ways to do dogfighting if he had somebody on his tail that he just couldn't get around because his ship couldn't turn as sharp and the person just kept on him. Could he potentially cut his main thruster, flip around backwards, and just keep going the exact same direction but shooting behind him at that point? Like the physics allow for you just to keep going after you cut out.
So totally. I mean, so we're allowing like a level. So like you have your basic flight control fly-by-wire system, and that probably doesn't allow you to do that. But if you upgrade it or change it or hack it or whatever you do, you certainly will be able to sort of turn off control features. And so there's no reason the physics simulation will totally handle that. So I kind of see that people getting like an advanced flight control system that will allow them to turn aspects of the fly-by-wire off. And one of them could be, okay, don't be correcting my velocity right now. I'm going to just use my maneuvering jets to change my attitude, but my overall like linear velocity vector is going to stay the same, which is what you described, which is basically you're going this way, you do your maneuvering jets to spin around, but you keep going this way, and you sort of, as you're going backwards, you're essentially shooting at the guy chasing you.
Cool. I think that'll give us a lot of options and really interesting dogfights. Because
there's a lot. So there's a lot. I mean, I've been talking to the folks here too that like there's also an idea that along some of the maneuvers, like when you're doing very radical maneuvers, like you're having a big delta in your velocity vector change, you'll be exerting like forces on the pilot, and at a certain point, your body can only take so many. So usually a flight control system would limit how quickly you could alter your velocity vector. But we're going to let pilots, like on a more advanced rig, turn that off. And so there's always, in every flight system, there's always safe, and then there's like some buffer, and then it becomes like lethal. And so, if someone really wants to, they could like be living on the edge by sort of pushing past the envelope and hopefully not going so far that they black out. Because if you black out, then obviously that's not good for combat, because you lose consciousness, and then you're kind of a sitting duck until you come around. So I think there'll be a fair amount of nuance. And then you'll also be able to adjust the various like power that you're putting to your thrusters, your shields, all those kind of things. So maybe if you're in a tight turning battle, you take the gamble of dropping power to your shields to pump more power to your thrusters to generate a little more force to have a little tighter turn. So that's all sort of those kind of like sort of rock, paper, scissors, swings and roundabouts decisions that I think will make the combat more interesting.
Right. Is there any chance of maybe getting better flight suits that'll allow you to do harder turns than you would otherwise normally?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like, so if you see in the 300i commercial, there's he's like basically wearing a sort of, it's kind of like, it's a sort of more modern day, like kind of suit that allows that, has, a lot of, like all those like ribbing in that suit are really sort of things to sort of keep the pressure in your blood point, because that's what you do, you constrict it. So there will definitely be some of that you can do, but it'll only go so far. So there isn't going to be the magical inertial dampening system that like cuts everything out, but there will be some that will allow you to maybe push it a bit more than no system or a lower grade spacesuit.
Bringer MC from chat had a question. He asked, can a power plant go critical due to external damage or system overload? If that is the case, do some ships have the ability to eject their power plant?
Yes, it can go critical, and not at the moment. We don't have an ability to eject the power plant. You may want to actually eject as a pilot instead.
Prioritize.
That may be the quicker option.
Yeah.
Well,
You can overdraw power, and you can damage your weapons, especially if you do things like trying to like overclock them to push out a little more damage. Just the same way you could like damage a computer component if you're building your own PC and you're overclocking it.
Right. Trying to think of something else maybe somebody has here.
Well, Kyle, you are amazingly popular in the Twitch chat. They say you're Best interview we've had all night.
Well then, thank you, Twitch. So I know that we've already talked a little bit about planetary exploration, and you guys said that eventually someday, maybe if you can get there, you would like to do it if, and I know that's a really big if at that, but if you had your dream come true where you had the resources or the time to actually explore a planet or do something on it, do you know what you'd like to do, whether it be just an arena combat or some kind of actual campaign on the ground where you're fighting off the Vandal?
Well, okay, so it's actually not a technical issue that prevents us from like doing more on the ground. So right now when you land on the planet, mostly it's a first-person environment. You're wandering around, but we're like deliberately not having combat on there, and we're having a fairly contained area only because I think we promised 100 star systems, and there's actually 115 in our current map. And each star system can have multiple planets, and some of those planets can have multiple locations you can land on. So we've literally got hundreds and hundreds of locations that we have to create and model. So it's really a content issue because right now the engine, we could be down, and it could be no different than you see in Crisis 1, Crisis 2, Crisis 3. We could model a pretty big world and you wander around and do all the rest. But there's a reason why like just doing a Crisis game takes them several years, and they're only doing like even a section of New York or something when they do it in all that detail. So it's really a content issue. So I definitely foresee down the road, once we're live and we're doing well, and maybe we can, we're doing well enough that there's enough of a sort of revenue coming in that we can deploy some more resources. We certainly can turn on things like combat on the ground in areas or expand an area. So that would be kind of things I would do in certain areas. I would like add more detail to the city. So you got more places you can visit, more places you can explore, maybe some places you can get into some first-person combat. So it's not really a limitation of the technology we've got. It really is just a content thing because we've already the game's hugely ambitious. We've got like all these. I mean, every one of those ships that we build, like just something simple like the 300i is a 3-month to 4-month job, and then like something like the Bengal is more like a 6-month job. The Corvette will probably be something like a 5-month job or something. And that's not just one artist. That's like quite a few artists working on it to build it. So it's just that there's a level of like content detail that we're doing for the ships, the characters, and then we've got whatever it is. I think it's 200 or 300 environments that we've got to wander around. So that's just a really daunting amount of content to deliver. So we're going to get that done first, and then we'll sort of build from there. But essentially, I would like to like expand out more back alleys, more like places to explore, go around, and have more intrigue down on the planets that would sort of match up with what's happening in space.
Right. Now in space, one of my friends asked me about weather patterns because, in a lot of games now, they do really good at involving weather like rain or fog or thunderstorms, and now it may not be quite as expansive in space, but could there be any kind of an atmospheric change or like electrical storm in space that could affect maybe a situation that you're in or just screw with your instruments to a point that it could further make more interesting dogfights?
Most definitely. I think we had this conversation and question earlier. Maybe it was the same person that you got off chat roll.
It might have been. This might have come up.
But yeah, no. So the idea is to sort of have space itself feel kind of like an environment in cases. So like, definitely like we're doing some stuff for Nebula and some other stuff where we'll have we want to try and get like almost a bit of a fluid simulation going for the Nebula, and maybe there's some that are like an electromagnetic storm that will like damage some of your equipment or reduce your visibility electronically. So yes, basically we want to have more of a sense of terrain in space. That was one thing that I thought Freelancer did well. That was one of the design goals, was space wasn't just going to be black empty space. It was going to have terrain to it. And we're definitely going to be doing that in Star Citizen too.
Okay. I've heard some people also talk about, at some point, and I don't remember who I heard it from, but they were talking about space stations. I don't know if that was confirmed at all, but are those just maybe a persistent item that people can capture back and forth, or just more like trading stations like you'd find on a planet?
So space stations mostly going, so yes, there'll be a persistent item that people can go back and forth and there can be combat on them. We haven't decided if maybe there are some space stations that are safe, that are more like a planet, That may be the case because we may make the decision there's a few places you'll need that. But in general, a lot of the space stations will be like an asteroid base, which there'll be a persistent entity sitting out in space that people can fight for control of in the more lawless areas.
I believe this could be destroyed. I think Ben might have said something about that, maybe, not to point fingers.
I don't know about destroying like an asteroid base or a space station. I think the most you would do is like that severely damage it and has to repair it. But I don't think in the case of those that we would. My sense is we wouldn't be destroying them.
No, putting C4 on the core. And
No, I mean it could be kind of cool. I don't know. So you never don't rule it out. But at the moment, in my head in the design, that wasn't something that you were necessarily destroying. Sorry,
So, Chris, I have an important question for you.
yeah.
The chat roll is blowing up, and they're so impressed with Kyle they want to give him a CPU.
Sure. You want a AMD A8 860K, I think it is.
An 860K, that's going to be hard to turn down.
4.2 gigahertz? Yeah.
You guys are going to make me build another computer? I think I can get on board with that.
Right.
All right,
I
cool.
think I have to thank chat for that.
You have one. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Thank you, Twitch. There you go.
Thank you, Twitch. I did see a question roll by there about the mod tools. Are they going to be full enough to where people could make their own planets for their servers if they were so inclined and talented to do so?
Yes. So I think that like the fully featured level of all the mod tools will be doing our persistent universe alpha and beta, and then when we got the live version out, then the sort of modding stuff would be coming out after that. We'll be rolling out some parts of the modding along the way. So we're going to be doing something about building ships the later half of this year. But the full tool set, which will be pretty involved, will be available on the road. And yeah, you should be able to build planet and environment down on the planet, build the ships if you're so inclined, tweak stats, do all that kind of thing.
Oh, very good. That should be a lot of fun.
Basically, it'll be close to sort of the environment we use.
And there are going to be some, for some of us out there, I mean, we've dealt with a lot of servers in the past where it's really hard to import your own content. Are you guys creating some easy way to import stuff into the world so we can test it? Or is it going to be just a little bit more involved than just dropping a file into a folder?
Are you talking about the persistent universe, or are you talking about your private server?
My own personal private server, if I was testing and making something that maybe I wanted to submit to you.
Your private server, you'd basically be testing it on like your machine and seeing it right then. So it's like, I mean, we're built on CryEngine, so like what you see for like the modding tools in Crysis 2 and Crysis 3 is pretty much similar. It's this tool called Sandbox, which is the editor we use for all our stuff. It's in the free SDK, and essentially you can pretty much do anything in that. The only thing you're sort of limited is you can't recode some of the systems.
Awesome.